word called vulnerable. Sometimes we have to be vulnerable in order to learn. When we're going through the dip, we feel very vulnerable. Vulnerable means take a chance or a risk. When we're vulnerable, we're honest about what we're really thinking or feeling or experiencing. When we're vulnerable, we're trying something new or hard or uncomfortable. That's why when we're in the dip and we're really struggling, we find ourselves being vulnerable. When we're vulnerable, we're scared, but we're not too scared to fail. We're willing to take that risk because we know that we can get there, we're just not there yet. And when we're vulnerable, we're open to others' feedback or ideas. Sometimes, instead of being vulnerable, people deny. They say, oh no, I understand it, even when they don't. Or they say, no, that's not a problem, I don't ever do that, when really they do. Or instead of being vulnerable, people blame and say, well, that's not my fault. This happened because they did that. They don't want to say that maybe they were part of the problem. They just want to say it's someone else that's part of the problem, when maybe it's both. Instead of being vulnerable, sometimes people make excuses. Well, I didn't do it because, or this happened, or this is what was going on. Instead of just being honest, yes, this happened, they make excuses about why it happened instead. And sometimes instead of being vulnerable, people take it too personally or they get offended. So for example, if your teacher says, hey, I really liked your essay, but you messed up on your capitalization, can you go back and fix that? The student might say, oh, it's all wrong, I can't get it, I'm dumb, this is a terrible essay. No, the teacher was just saying, hey, you need to fix your capitalization. When people take it too personal or get offended, they're feeling almost too vulnerable. They're taking it too personally rather than just fixing the problem. In order to be a learner, we have to be vulnerable. So we're going to tell you some stories about when staff was not afraid to fail. Tell me about a time you failed, Mrs. Etheridge.
One time when I was teaching, it was Grandparents' Day, and we were thinking of lists of things that you put or have out for Thanksgiving, and I put a bunch of words on the board and I had spelled them incorrectly, and it was really embarrassing.
It's okay to make mistakes. Mrs. Olson, tell me about a time you messed up.
Well, there have been lots of times where kids have lost their papers, and I thought they just lost it or left it at home, and I tell them it's their fault, when actually I find it on my desk in a pile on accident, and so I have to just say, I'm sorry, it was my fault.
Thank you, Mrs. Olson. To close our Monday mindset, let's round robin and share a time we failed with teammates. In a second, the music will play. That'll be your think time. When the music stops, I want you to share about a time you failed with the teammate sitting by you. Maybe it was big, maybe it was small, but we've all messed up. Be vulnerable and be willing to share about a time you failed. When I was in 6th grade, I shot a basket in the wrong hoop. That was my big fail.